Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, today we got episode 189.
189 is a 1 mile little spur highway that goes from South Burlington, Vermont to South Burlington, Vermont. The biggest, you've been here, the biggest city in Vermont is Burlington, but none of Interstate 89 goes through the city of Burlington.
That's crazy.
And so it's just a little spur that connects to Route 7, which takes you to the southern half of the state, which it's taking me longer to describe Interstate 189 than it does. It's a 1 mile spur. And that's it. That's the only interstate spur in the state of Vermont. I mean, you got, 495 and 195 and 390 and 693 and all that. Nope. It's 189. And that's our episode number.
Okay, so we're gonna. Hopefully won't be as short as that, our episode. But,
I've waited 2 weeks to tell you that.
You've waited 188 episodes to talk about that, from what I remember.
I really just thought of it after we finished 188. Like, I have one for 189.
All righty. So anyway, this is episode 189 of the Digital to Dice podcast. We are live for our Patreons tonight on YouTube, so they've watched the whole setup and all the technical difficulties and problems we've had before starting the show, and now they're here watching us record this live and in the chat room with us. See, ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the dice line. You can send us a text message. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. And if you'd like to become a Patreon for $2 a month to $5 a month to help us out pay the bills, and let's see, our club members at the $5 rate get some bonus stuff, like, getting to see behind the scenes, get to see us record some of the podcasts live and some of the other discussions that we have. It's over on patreon.com/digitaltodice. And so we want to thank everybody for the support over there. Today's going to be kind of split in half, this show. We're going to be talking about a couple different things. One is going to be setting up a new computer. I ran the last 4 or 5 days. That's what I've been doing. So we were supposed to record last week, and Ron had some issues, and we were going to record this weekend, and my computer was having issues. So that's why we're super late with this episode here. We were supposed to be having 190 recorded today, but we're backed up a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about what I went through setting up the computer, just to help anybody else in the gaming community that's planning on setting up a new computer.
Because you really haven't had the chance to play anything, so.
Yeah, no, I haven't played much at all, to tell you the truth, since I started this little project. So this has been my project, is setting up a new computer. We're also going to talk about a little bit later on why projects don't get finished. And we had some people in the chat room making a couple of nice little notes about that. And, I know there's many different reasons for me, and Ron probably the same way. So a little bit later on, our main topic is going to be why projects don't get finished. So I think what we could do is kick things off, Ron. I'm going to let you lead off with what you're playing, because like I say, what my playing is going to be my computer. But I want you to tell us what you've been playing. Let me play the music. Hang on. Here we go.
Okay. I went to Aunt Becky's and had a great time.
Aunt Becky? We haven't had the Aunt Becky in a long time.
I know. What have I been playing? Well, I didn't get to play much last week because I had to be a functional adult. I hate being a functional adult.
That's all I've done for 2 weeks is adult stuff.
I post usually a funny thing on Facebook every day, if you're friends with me on Facebook. And one day last week, it just happened to pop up, and someone said, I did an autocorrect from functional adult to fictional adult. And it came up that. And I said, yes, I like that better. And so I shared that one. So I didn't get the chance to play much last week. This week, trying to make up for the fact I'm going to be not around next week, the wife's birthday. It's a nice round number for her this year. So 25, yes. So doing 5 days of 2001 Action PC streaming. And this is Wednesday? So day 3 of that, concluding Friday with a Labor Day doubleheader. So we're almost done. And apparently I have a thing for the Cleveland Indians this week because they've been on the first 3 days. I pick out my streams a couple weeks in advance, and obviously subject to change if someone has kind of pooped the bed and need to swap out a game. But really haven't, because Cleveland is the Red Sox have found first place. Of all the years I've done this is my fifth replay. Okay, fifth full season replay. And the Red Sox have grossly underperformed the years that they were supposed to do well. Not this year. They're one game out of first place and playing the Yankees going into Labor Day weekend. So my stream tomorrow is Pedro Martinez pitching against the Yankees. A good time will be had by all, unless you're a Yankee fan, hopefully. So it looks like Houston has won the National League Central. Their lead is 11.5 with a month to go. And Cleveland is starting to chip away at the White Sox. At one point, that was a 9.5 game lead like last week. And now it's down to 6.5.
How long does it usually take to erase leads of 9 games? Like typically, you're playing a season.
With only 30 games to go in the season, it's going to take pretty much a miracle. When the Red Sox blew that 14.5 game lead to the Yankees in '78, that was in mid-July. So to do it with about 4 weeks to go, remember we have an added week because they didn't play the week of September 11th.
Okay.
So we're down to 32 games to go.
So if there's 32 games left, it's potentially possible to erase 9-game league, do you think?
I believe the Mets blew a 7-game lead with 10 games to go.
Yeah, I mean, you can have your crazy collapses, right?
It would almost be to the point now where it would be crazy.
Okay.
6.5 isn't that much, but it was 9.5 2 weeks ago in the game. So with 45 games to go, you would think that 9.5 games would be enough, but maybe not now.
I always wonder that, because you see teams that are up, and you know that was the one thing I didn't like about baseball growing up, is that you're in August and you got a team that's like 17 games out, and it's just like, Why bother even playing at this point?
That's why they've added all the wild cards. I mean, it does give people a chance, or gives team a chance to compete when normally, before. That's what other people would say would be the beauty of baseball, is that if you don't win your division, you're not going to the playoffs.
Like Pesky Pole just said here in the chat, you better have some head-to-head games, because those are the big ones. If you can sweep 3 games, that's you gaining 3 games
That's potentially the season.
Yeah.
That's potentially the season. So it matters in a different way. And, going into what 21st century sports is, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame for that, because, the concept of, okay, it's August 15th and it's done. Chicago and Houston might play in the Central a few more times. I haven't done any of those games in a while. But that with 30 games to go, 11 is almost insurmountable. So pretty much that's primarily what I've played is that. Looking at picking up another couple games of something else. Oh, so speaking of errors, I did Love and Dice United for the PC. I did a cup with the winners of the top 4 European leagues. Okay, one game semifinal and a final. Had a great time doing it, and the audio never recorded. Had something fired up, took an hour to do. You said redub it. I might get bored enough to redub it, but the chances of getting redubbed are slimmer by the day. The championship game went to penalty kicks. It was great. Was having a good time calling it. Needed it after a bad week last week. Uploaded it, released it into the wild. No sound. So that's what I've been playing.
I've done that. I did a whole video on something I did. I did a talk, and there was a pretty good talk, whatever I talked about. And I had it all set up here. I never plugged in the Rodecaster, and so it was all through the webcam mic, and it just was it's all tinny and terrible. I didn't delete it, but it sounded so bad. It really did.
Do you remember when you were a kid watching Greatest Sports Legends? It usually was Reggie Jackson or Jane Kennedy or someone would be the host, and they'd talk to other athletes. It was one of those Saturday or Sunday filler things before we got into infomercials. And so they would normally show highlights of someone's career. And the reason why I bring this up is because the play-by-play for whatever they were showing was always recreated. Dick Enberg, usually it's the one that recreated it before he became big, and you could just tell. And it never sounded good. And there it is. And Reggie Jackson is homered on 3 consecutive pitches to win the World Series. Yay! It's like, okay, again, the announcing wasn't terrible, but it wasn't authentic.
Yeah, when they
it's
did
like
that,
you could tell the champagne was not Corbell. And so for me, that would be kind of the redubbing. Like, I know it's coming. How do you fake that enthusiasm?
I did that a couple times where I played some games, and then I think I went into like Replay Baseball or something like that, and I pretended to roll the dice and just played out what I had on in front of me, and so I knew what was coming, I knew what was happening. It was okay, I guess, but I was like, here's just kind of a retelling of the game I just played, and I don't know. I
just think that the energy level the first time through. I mean, I had to do it because I paused the 2023 Indy 500 replay just as the winner crossed the line. So instead of trying to go through and do the fake call of that, I had to think on the fly what to do. What do you mean NBC was in commercial? That was the end of the race. Why were they in commercial?
Yeah, it happens.
Just come up with something, but yeah. So go ahead. You
Well, I did play one thing before I swapped over computers. 7071 for Stone Cold Hockey is coming out, and I got an advanced copy of that season, and I put it into Excel, and I went online the other night, and I played a couple of games and just showed off some of the teams that were there, and just had so much fun in that season. I'm so glad that 7071 is available for Stone Cold Hockey. So I did get to play that. Had a lot of fun.
Out 22-23.
Yeah, that's coming out shortly too, if it's not out already. No, I think I did play some of that in Stone Cold. Yeah. I think I played.
No, it's out. It's out for the computer, so.
Okay, yeah, I played game 1, Cards and Dice. And I forget who. I think it was an overtime game, I think. So I've already played one game in that. So yeah, I've been enjoying the Stone Cold. Played some shootout hockey as well. Went back to 7071. I think I did Leafs Blackhawks, and the Leafs only had like a 1-6 or 1-8 scoring chance out of 100, and they managed a 2-2 tie against the Blackhawks. It was kind of fun. It really was. So anyway, so I did play a little bit before I did the new computer. So let's get into that right now.
Yeah. So you went down to Circuit City with Aunt Becky.
Service merchandise, actually.
Oh, you watched it come off the conveyor belt.
Yeah. I remember buying at Circuit City. I think it was Circuit. I think there was one place I went to, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a local place, and you went in and you would order it, then you go stand in line and wait for them to hand it to you, and you could be in line a half hour waiting for them to dig it out of the warehouse.
That was service merchandise, right?
I think they did that too. Yeah, that was such a pain in the neck.
The last stereo I bought was from Circuit City back in 2000.
I didn't mind Circuit City. I was okay with that.
No.
They still have a couple around here, but they're empty, but you can still see that it was Circuit City, that unique design. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so my computer that I use for gaming and streaming and my movie reads and a few other things. So not my essential work stuff, so to speak, but my secondary work stuff. As that's why I have this computer here. The D drive was not showing up. And I would reboot and the D drive would come back. And then it would be good for a few boots, and then I would do it again. So I'm like, okay, before I lose everything, let me back up. So I backed up everything on both drives. And then it just kept happening again. So I said, okay, I need a new computer. So I went into to Cambridge, which is right outside of Boston, and I said, I need to get one like this weekend. So I think I called you Saturday afternoon and said, I got to go get this computer now. So that's why we didn't stream Saturday night. And I had picked one out. It was like an open box special. It was like a couple $100 off, and it was a good specs. And I went in there, and the guy's like, yeah, that's kind of a year and a half old. So he says, this is what you should be getting. And I know he's a salesman. He's trying to upsell me. But I asked around. We looked at 5 or 6 different computers. And I said, yeah, there's no sense getting year and a half old technology at this point here. So I looked, and I picked out one that was right about the same price as the one that I had. I had a really nice Alienware. And it's still very nice after 5 years. It's just, I think it might be a Power what is the power pack, whatever it is, the power adapter? Or
Power supply.
Power supply. I think it might be that. So I'm going to try to swap that out and see if it fixes it. And if it does, then I'll keep it and I'll put it over in Studio A and I'll be able to broadcast from over there because it still runs pretty good. But anyway, so I got this new one here Saturday night. And I knew I was too tired after working all day Saturday to do anything. So he says, okay, we'll do it Sunday. And so I come home Sunday and I wake up Sunday and I fire it up. And usually when I get a new computer, the issues I have with a new computer are just getting Windows going and installed and all the updates and putting in your Microsoft account. And just that, to me, that was the headache of new computers. This one didn't do any of that. So I don't know if it's got all the updates. I don't know if my Microsoft account's on here, but it fired up and I was in and I was up and running. I said, okay, good. So that headache's not there. Maybe they fixed it. So then I start, logging in. And you log into OneDrive, and then I start putting in my Office 365, which has Excel and PowerPoint. And then funky things started happening. Like my other computers, all the desktops were changing. And I know that it's kind of synced across everything, but I'm like, no, I don't like that. So then I would delete it off of one and delete it off all of them. I'm like, okay. So I ran into a huge issue with OneDrive, basically, just to make a long story short. I spent 6 or 7 hours on Sunday installing programs only to have issues because of OneDrive. And after doing a lot of research, like figuring out what's going on here, from what I could understand, from what some people are saying, is that with Windows 11, which is what I have on this new computer, everything wants to default through the OneDrive Documents folder. So we all have a Documents folder on our C drive, and that's kind of the main thing for a lot of things. Well, everything was running through the OneDrive Documents folder, which is different from the C drive Documents folder. So I put in all my games. So I put in like Replay PC Basketball, and it's going through. And we were talking. I was like, why the heck is it with a pop-up saying OneDrive Documents, and it's looking for files in OneDrive's I go, why is it doing this? There's no reason why PC Replay Basketball should be going through OneDrive.
Right.
So eventually, I went on, and people are just saying, just turn off the Documents and turn off the desktop feature for OneDrive. Just do that. So I did that. All the computer screens went like back to normal because I would like find my Excel icons disappearing on my main computer. I'm like, where the hell's the Excel icon? I put it back, and it won't run. It's not finding the path because all the computers were messed up.
Yeah, it's all designed to go for the cloud because a lot of people use different computers and different accounts.
Yeah, so keep that in mind that if you do get a new computer and it is Windows 11, and like I said, I have the 365 Office there, so I can use Excel and Word and PowerPoint. And actually, I found out, Ron, that Windows 11 has a video editing program.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, because I was going to look into getting a better one, but I'm going to try this one first. It comes with it. It comes with the Office 365, so I'll give that a shot when I start doing some of my more taped videos. So keep in mind that I think it's called ClipCam or something like that, but there's a video editor in Windows 11. So the first thing I would recommend is that once you get set up is just go into your OneDrive and turn off Documents and Desktop if you have any other computers connected, because it just like I would get on my work computer and I get like Replay Basketball icons. I mean, because it's just reading the desktop and it's just spread. So once I clicked off of that, everything went back to normal. All my icons were stable. And I spent a whole day messing with that. And I think I talked to you Sunday night, and I was so frustrated. I says, I'm tempted just to bring this thing back and just fix the one I got because this is not going well at all. I did not expect this. Once I did that, things were fine. So Monday, Tuesday, I started, putting up all my main programs, and then I started doing some of my games. And a lot of the games you got to email and get a new code. Some you do have to pay for. The inside sports games, if you put on a new computer, it is $10 to get a new license for that computer. But you can still play it on the old computer. That's the thing. Right. So you're getting a second license, so to speak. The replay games, I think you get 2 because he asked me, I already have it on 2, so I would need to cancel 1. So I was like, okay, we'll do that. That's fine. So moving all the games over, basically you go onto the website and download all the new games. That's the best way to do it because you really can't drag anything over. And so that's what I did is I brought everything over, and then I had to email to get all the new codes. Kind of a pain, but, it is nice getting a fresh copy of the game, too. That way there, the newest and the greatest, all the updates and the whole bit. So I did all that, got all my codes in. Once I get rid of the OneDrive, everything was just better. I tried to install the Shootout helper that I use all the time, and that didn't work, and that bummed me out. I was really bummed out at that.
Did you get that to work?
Yeah, it was missing a DLL file, okay? And it said exactly what you need to, well, it didn't say exactly what you need, but it said, I'm missing this MS whatever DFT.
Yeah, it's a data library.
Yeah, so it was missing that. So I searched that, and it said, okay, if you can find this file, go put it into one of these two folders, and then register the file with the computer, and it should work. Now, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And they gave me all these links. I'm like, I'm really not comfortable downloading this from a place I don't know. It wasn't Microsoft. Right. Probably would have been fine from some of these major places. But anyway, said the second option was to go to a computer that that this program works on and grab the DLL from there. So I did. So I went into the old computer, found the DLL file, dropped it on a USB drive, put it on the new computer, and then I followed the instructions that they gave on the internet as far as where to put it. And then you got to go into like the DOS box or the command prompt, one of those two things, and you got to register that. So you got to kind of that probably took me 2 to 3 hours to figure out how to get the file, put it there, go to the command prompt, get the DOS box to go to the right folder, and then hit the proper code to register the file. And it took me a few times, and when I finally got it, I went back in the Shootout helper works fine. Good. So long and short, if you get that DLL message, it is fixable. It is a pain in the neck. I'm not going to lie. It is a pain in the neck. And then I did the Pro Football helper, and again, it put 19 to 20 folders on my desktop. Oh. Because everything was running through the OneDrive. And that's when I really lost my stuff on Sunday afternoon. When I put the Pro Football helper in, it says, why is it going on my desktop? And so when I got rid of the OneDrive, everything cleaned up, and I tried it. I think I installed it again, and so now I had to basically reinstall everything that I put in on Sunday to avoid the OneDrive issue. And since I did that, everything's fine as far as anything new I installed. But the Pro Football helper, I got to work. I actually went into my old computer and took all the data and then just dumped it into the folder, and so all my seasons are there.
Oh, cool beans.
Yeah, and there's a few things like that you can do. The ASG Golf, I needed to get a new code, but when they wrote me back, they said, if you can get a hold of the ASG publishing folder in your C drive or documents, if you just copy that over, you should have all your players and all your courses, and it did. So there's some things that you just need to install the game, and you can drag things over from an old computer.
I did that with the pictures because I have everything attached to a backup hard drive. But I didn't think about the courses. I haven't bought a course in a while either.
Yeah. So my courses were in whatever that folder was, the publishing folder.
Nice.
I just brought it all over, and it's there. There's a lot of things like the inside sports games that didn't work. You do have to one by one click on the seasons and install it, which was a pain in the neck. 'Cause I have a lot of hockey seasons, but they all did go in. The only 2 issues I had with bringing games over, one was with Replay PC Baseball. It identified it as a virus. And
did you ever get that clarified?
What I did is I emailed them, and they said it was fine, and everybody else said it was fine. And I knew it was fine, but it was still picking up on it. And you get a brand new computer, and you don't want to put a virus on it. You know what I mean? So I went in and just said, allow. And when I did that, I clicked on it, and it worked. And so...
Yeah, Microsoft Windows Defender is actually quite good.
Yeah, well, that's what picked it up. That's what I used. So it picked up that. And I was surprised because some of the inside the crease hockey seasons, I got that too. I
remember, I think, years ago having that happen.
Yeah, it was like virus detect, and I'd have to really kind of put it on an old computer and download it and then extract it and then bring it. It was a pain in the neck. But so far, that's been good too. So the one issue I ran into was the Replay PC Baseball being picked up as a virus, and I just ignored it and ran it, and now it's up and running and okay. You do got to reinstall all your seasons. I don't remember what seasons I had. Luckily, I've been taking a lot of screenshots with my phone. So I would go on the old computer, fire up Replay Baseball, take a picture because it shows all my seasons. Same with the basketball, and the same with Strat. I would go in and take pictures of all my seasons And so that way I knew which ones to install. Luckily, I did that on the basketball because 2 or 3 of my basketball seasons for Strat I bought off of eBay. So they're not in my vault.
But you can put them in your vault. You can't add that to your vault.
Okay, so what I did was when I uninstalled the season, it brought up a box that showed the code, so I took a picture of it. So I had the code right there.
Very clever. Yep.
Yeah, so I took a picture of all the basketball. Now, the hockey, I knew I had all in the vault, so I didn't have to worry about it. So I took.
But yeah, you can add things to the vault, by the way.
I'll probably have to do that, once I figure it out. So I took the pictures of the code, because once you uninstall the game, you can't get back into those codes. You're done.
No, you're locked.
Yeah. So luckily I did that, and they went back in when I installed the basketball game. So surprisingly, the Strat stuff, as much crap as people give Strat about you got to unauthorize all the seasons, then unauthorize the game, and then go back in and do it all again, it does go pretty quick.
I dreaded that. In fact, I dreaded that. In fact, I had a video taped, but there was just too much of a chance of something showing up that may not have been reauthorized or that, and you just don't want to be careful putting it out there. And interestingly enough, it was not a bad experience whatsoever. You can uninstall in bulk, unauthorize in bulk, which I think is new with last year's set of games. So starting, I think, with the football game from 22 and going forward, which makes it a lot easier than going through and having to unauthorize one by one. I mean, I got 20 basketball seasons.
Yeah,
you just pull all your hair out doing that.
Yeah, well, what I did is I said unauthorized, select all, and it would say unauthorized this, okay. Then it would say activations left 1. Unauthorized this, so you did have to hit okay a bunch of times for every single one.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
Instead of
then I installed. So then I went into my account and I downloaded fresh all the games from my account. And then I put them in, and then I put in the codes, and then it was just like, what season you want to install, and then every time you click on a season, you put in the code. It went pretty smooth. It took some time, and I dreaded the baseball and the hockey because I had a lot of seasons for them, but they all went in pretty smooth. The only issue I had with Strat was I have the Strat Football game 2022, and for whatever reason, when I downloaded, I was getting 2021. And so when I fired it up and put in the code wouldn't go because it was looking for 2022.
Right.
And I didn't have that. I had the code, but I didn't have the file in my vault on Strat, which is really weird. Luckily, when I went back into the old computer, I found the download for 2022 football and just put that on a thumb drive, brought it over to the new computer, installed it, and then put in the code, and it was fine. But that was the one glitch I had, was that the Strat Football was an older version for some reason, and it didn't sync up, which was kind of weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so in the worst case, I would have had to buy Strat when the new one come out or whatever, but everything went in pretty quick. The Strat Football was the only glitch. The Replay PC Baseball was a glitch, but everything else went pretty smooth over there.
I'll be curious to see if you had the same graphics driver issue with Strat Football that I do, because using the GeForce driver, because I have an NVIDIA graphics card, when you start the game, what should be the transparent numbers for the field have that pink background. And so what I have to do to play Strat, I haven't played it in a while, is I have to go back to the Microsoft default driver as opposed to the NVIDIA driver, so I'm not getting a raspberry ice cream headache, because that's what it looks like. It's that, where the pink transparent is and the computer recognizes it. Yeah.
I just opened it up. I'm trying to see if I can play an unscheduled game here.
Just launch an exhibition game if you can.
Yeah, I'm not seeing where I can here.
All right, well,
yeah, we'll figure it out. So I'll check that out. I was kind of seeing if I could do it right here from the start.
So
here.
that was the only glitch I had with the Strat stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out and see if the football works or not. But anyway, so that's some of the things that I went through with the new computer. The only other issue I had is that the recording software that I have, and I've had that for years. When I went into my account, I logged into my account, I'm on version 8, and they were saying, oh, yeah, you have version 2 and 3, or 2 and 5, or something like that. I'm like, no, I've been using 8 for a few years, so I don't know why 8 wasn't in my account, but it wasn't in my account. So I had to buy the new one, which was 10, and it's not that expensive. It was about $75, something like that. But that's the only thing I really had to buy was the new audio software. And actually, I kind of like it. When I went in there, I think it's a little bit more steady. Maybe the new computer's helping out too, because the other one was a little bit. It was very slow, and I always thought it was very slow compared to some of the other versions that I had. But I do like it. I did try it out. And I actually went in, and I have like all this musical stuff on there, and I have like all these effects on mixing and making us sound better. That's why I use the podcast through there.
That's where the drums for the open comes from too, right?
Yeah. The drum. I got a whole bunch of drumming stuff I was going to use for music, and that didn't sound that good, and I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't work. But it works like a charm in the new one, so I'm not going to argue with it. It works like a charm. But again, I spent probably 3 hours today installing all the music stuff onto that and getting that up and running and figuring out how it works, because again, I hadn't used that in years. And it's almost like when playing a new game. If you haven't played a game in years and you're like, holy cow, I got to relearn this. That's how this was. I was, went to the website, forgot my password, put it in, download the installer, then all your stuff's right there. So some of the stuff was very user friendly, and other of it I had a headache with, but all in all, yeah. So that's just kind of some of the things I went through with a new computer, and that's some of the stuff that you can look forward to too. Luckily, I did back up everything onto external drives, so all my PDFs I just dumped onto the D drive on the new computer. So nice. I have all them. Some games, again, if you once you get them installed, sometimes you can just take a folder and dump it on the new computer, and you're all set to go. And other times you can't. It all depends. I get all the DK Sports on there, and I think I got to reinstall a lot of the seasons to do. But I mean, again, it's going pretty well. It's just time. It's just a time thing.
Yeah.
So
actually, your active season should be fine, because that's why they have the separate data folder.
It may be.
Yeah. As long as that's transferred over.
I think I did go into 74, 75 hockey, and all the logos and everything come up. So I was like, okay, good, that's all good. Oh, and then in the Strat, I brought over all the player picks and the alias text, crossed my fingers, just dumped them on the new computer, and I went in and everything was fine. And I was like, yay! Oh yeah. The only thing I didn't have was the layout that I have, and I love my layout.
Have to do that manually again, but
no, I didn't have to. I went back into the old computer, and I found. Actually, I went to one of my videos that I did about this, and I found out like how to export and save a layout. And so nice. I found where the file was. So on the old computer, I just downloaded the file onto a USB drive, dropped it in, and then opened that layout, and my layout was there. So all the pictures, everything.
There you go.
Yeah. So
nicely done.
So the one thing I was worried about was the Strat Baseball, and that was probably the simplest. It was just install it.
Of course it was.
Install it and just drop everything in. Yeah, of course, right? Of all the things, that was probably the easiest, So anyway, so that is that. So new computer's in. That's what I'm on right now. Hopefully get the old one fixed, and then I could broadcast from Studio A if I really had to. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Excellent. Well, good luck with it.
Yep. It's between the new modem for Comcast. I don't know if I told that story, but I was getting 25 down on Comcast and 25 up. So 25 up is good, but 25 down is terrible. I'm paying for 1,000. That's my plan. It's 1,000. And so I did the reset, and you can't call Comcast. It's all done on your phone through the app. So I did all that on the app, and then they finally said, "Yeah, you're having a problem." So I was like, "Oh, good. Thanks for letting me know. It's something that I'm already aware of." So I said, "We got to send out a technician." So they sent out a technician, and he just checked the wire. He goes, "Yeah, it seems all right." But he put in a new modem. And last night I checked it about midnight when I got home from work. I was getting 980.
That's pretty good.
I mean, that's almost 1,000.
That's pretty good.
So needless to say, I went on to Steam and I was downloading a ton of games on Steam. It's like, if I'm going to get that much speed at night, I'm going to get it,
Oh, yeah.
So I was downloading some of my old racing games and things like that, stuff that was, 4 or 5 gigs, like, was flying last night.
I've noticed that when I upload a video with this new computer, it is a lot faster. And my upload speed's about the same, but...
Well, we'll have to try that then.
Yeah.
When I get the new podcast.
So you might find that uploading is easier with the horsepower that you got.
Yeah. I mean, this thing is a beast, and it's whisper quiet. Holy cow! It doesn't make any noise at all. Not that the Alienware did, but this one doesn't make any noise at all. So I'm kind of hoping I'll have good luck with it. I've spent enough time with it, 4 days putting everything there. But
you got it.
But I got it up and running. So yeah. So that is kind of the beast. That was my project of the week. It was a 4-day project, and I'm hoping I'm done with it now. Anyway, so let's get to the topic that we were going to talk about today, and that is why projects don't get finished. Here we go.
Okay. That sounds like a topic would be on the $20,000 pyramid, right? Because it sucked. Why do projects not get finished? Ding, ding, ding.
I used to love that. That was my favorite game show, was the pyramid one. But like blump, blump, ducks, fish, birds, things in a pond, ding, ding, ding. I used to love that. I did. I always liked the pyramid.
So your first subject, ready? Go. Yeah. So intense.
I did like that so much. But anyway, so why projects don't get finished. And this kind of came to me when I was watching somebody, I don't know if it was on Facebook or on Delphi. I think it was Facebook. And somebody wrote in, and I don't even know if it was in our group or not. It might have been probably was another group. And he says, I'm playing this project. It ain't going well. Yeah, but I'm pretty deep into the season, and I'm not having fun. And I think
it was Bernie with the 67 Red Sox, wasn't it?
Well, there was another one. Somebody I didn't know. Somebody I didn't know.
Okay.
And there was this guy was just saying, I hate to quit, but I'm not having fun. It's like, what do you guys normally do when you're deep into a project, but you just lost the love for it? And so it was like, well, there's all different reasons why we don't finish a project. For me, sometimes it's just because I got too many. And I so I think that that's some of it. There is that I have this project here, and I start another one, and so this project goes to the back, and then I start another one. So now that project is 2 or 3 levels deep, and that happens a lot to me, and a lot of it I do offline. I got a handful of stuff I just play for myself offline, and they just get bumped by other products. So I think the first reason why products don't get finished is that we just get excited and play other games. And
you talk to someone on YouTube or a friend of yours or whatever, and you just see, oh, look, there's Larry Bird highlight video, or oh, look, it's Walter Payton stuff. And so, I think boredom probably is one thing, because there's always a shiny project, and because seasons and games are so much easier to get, it's just so much easier to go through and go from one project to another.
I think a lot of it is you're sitting down at the table and you're having chicken fingers, and then the buffet brings out the crab legs.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't want to fill up on chicken fingers. I need room for the crab legs. So you go to get the crab legs, you sit down at the table, and it's like, oh, next thing you know, they come out with the beef teriyaki.
Yes.
And that's kind of how it is when well, at least for me, when I do projects.
You really do the Golden Corral thing quite well, don't you?
I do. I like to play different games. I get excited about different things. And I have my seasons I come back to, and that's going to be a topic that we'll be talking about very shortly in the future. But, I like to try different things. Like, I'm really on this 22-23 hockey season kick, and I'm enjoying the modern season here for a change. It was fun to go back and check out all the old games on the computer, because I have to reinstall them. So it's like, oh, man, I haven't played this in forever. And, 2nd and 10 and things like that. Just going through all the old PDFs when I brought them over. That was kind of fun, too. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why projects don't get finished. One probably just being the distraction of other projects. I think that would probably be the big one.
And I think that's very common.
Yeah.
Very common. Yeah. I think the other thing, the other major reason is because it gets old. projects can go stale, or they might, you do something for a while, we all get gung-ho. I mean, you do more one-offs and short projects, but for those of us who tend to do longer projects, it kind of gets stale. Or to talk about something that Bernie's talked about recently is the result maybe going sideways for where you thought it was going to be. And look, no matter what it is, whether it's a one-off or a long project or what have you, it has to be fun. And once it starts to feel like a chore, then it's going to start to go south. So you got a couple things. You can just say, I'm done with this, because let's say you're 3/4 of the way through a long project and the team can't recover, or what you're trying to do isn't going to work. I had that happen with in Strat 81-82. I was doing the Islanders and the Oilers, and I was trying to see if I could get Gretzky to 212 points or whatever it was. There was no way, and it turns out that the cards were made wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And so that project got abandoned because he was never going to do what he was supposed to do. And part of the fun of that project for me was, how do we get him there? But he was never going to get 92 goals. Never, ever, ever. I mean, you have to average 3 points a game, and I think he was at 196. So that comes through. Or let's say you're trying to replicate or get a team over the hump to win a championship, and you get halfway through the season and they're 15 games out of first place. Guess what? They aren't going to recover from that. And again, do I continue to do it? Like, nope. Or not. If it becomes a not fun or a chore, or like you said, you can't get there, then that tends to be why a project gets dropped.
Well, I think a lot of times, the aggravating thing. I remember when I did the California Seals, I did 73-74, which is their worst season in shootout, and I just played them in shootout, and I didn't really keep any stats. I just was doing final score. And they'll shootout games take you 15, 20 minutes. And I remember getting pretty aggravated in that, because I'd be leading a game and then they would blow it. I mean, again, they're a bad team. They don't win many games. And I think I won pretty close to what they won in real life. But when I went on 8-game losing streaks, I was really getting aggravated. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I know I'm doing it to see how many games I can win, but the competitiveness in me come out, and I was just like, man, I'm tired of blowing 2-goal leads in the third period. And I was getting really aggravated and chucking dice around. And because I was really getting attached to the team, and I was pulling for them to win. And I know that the design of that product was to lose a lot of games, but it did take its toll. Now, I finished it, but boy, I came close during the middle of that run to say, I played 30 or 40 games, and this is just not fun, all this losing anymore,
Right. You like doing bad teams, and I think that's kind of unusual in the hobby. People really try to do greatest hits, not worst hits. But you got through the Cleveland Spiders project.
Yeah. I ended up playing as the other team is what I did.
Right.
So I didn't play as the Spiders. I was playing as the other team, so I should have been winning. And that way I let the computer handle the Spiders, and then I didn't have to worry about, how good or how bad they played,
I would be curious to know from other people, piggybacking on Bernie's 67 Red Sox, how many people take their favorite team, and if they don't do what you kind of expected them to do, how many of those projects get shelved? Because as you said, with the Golden Seals, you got tired of blowing leads that you should be holding on to. What'd you do that in shootout?
Yeah, shootout hockey.
Project. Okay, so you got tired of blowing leads, and so you can try to keep it fresh, but at some point, it's like, it's aggravating to have that happen. And I think for some people, the first few times that happens, okay, it just gets put on the bottom of the pile. We'll do a couple other things, and just like with a lot of longer projects, pull it out a month later, see where you are, and maybe find a new rekindling from it. But if it's just the same role aggravation, then no, it's going to get shelved. I also think that game engines, you get aggravated with a game engine. If you don't like the way a game plays and you keep going at it with that, again, it's kind of like reading a book. If you find a bunch of misspellings or bad grammar in the book,
it takes you out of the mood. Yeah, it takes
you out of the mood, and you might be going great guns with the project. Team might be doing exactly what you wanted to do, but if the mechanics aggravate the snot out of you, it's going to get shelved.
Yeah. And I think, another reason why a project doesn't get finished is just, maybe that you have an injury if you play with injuries. And you're partway through a season.
You told the story of Steve Young before.
Yeah, well, I just started that. So it was easy for me to bounce off of that. But just, if you're halfway through a season and your starting quarterback goes down or your best pitcher goes down, it's like, man, I don't have a chance. I had that happen to me in Franchise Hockey Manager where I was playing a team, and again, I'm not that good at that game, but I have my fun with that. And I was managing this team, and I don't know if it was a fictitious team or what, I don't remember what it was, but I got to the Stanley Cup Finals, and my top 3 guys got hurt. And it just took me, and I lost the finals. But it's like I play all this way, and I get here, and my best guys are out. And I think that I did manage to win one game, but I think I lost 4-1 or something like that. And it was just like, I get anything can happen, and we play it for good or bad, but it really, to play that long project out and then to have it go sour like that at the end was just, now I know I can.
It's the twist and turn that you don't want.
Yeah, it soured me at the end. It really did. It completely soured me at the end, and it was a fun. And again, not that you have to win it every time, but when you lose it like that, I was really bummed out. I really was.
You spend all that time with a group of people, and then they're not there at the end. And so, yeah, if you're going to lose, you want to lose with the people that were there.
So injuries can come up. And sometimes you just get tired of the losing. A couple of people here in the chat have been saying that, like my Lions just were playing bad and they just bail out, I give credit to Al Red Sox fan for playing that Mets team over and over and over and over. All he does is play those doggone Mets and he expects them to kind of win something here, and he doesn't, and it's just he gets frustrated with that too, I can tell, but he finishes it though. But I can see that, if your team's not doing well, it's like, again, you're 17 games out in August. Are you going to finish the project? Are you going to go on to something that's fun? When it stops being fun, and again, winning is usually more fun than losing, and I get that. It's kind of crappy if every time you start losing, you bail out of a project. I get that, because it's like, well, then just play the best team all the time and whatever. So you got to be able to take some of the losing. Sometimes I take the losing better than other times, but sometimes it does. It just like, I don't know.
Well, there are times when it becomes a bit too real. If I go through and play a mid-'80s Red Sox game or whatever, on the stream, and those projects get finished, and by the time that they've lost, and you look up and they've stranded 15 runners, or I'm exaggerating, or Bob Stanley did what Bob Stanley did so well, it can get really aggravating for those reasons. Years ago, I was doing a project to replay baseball with the Washington Nationals the year I covered it, because they have everything and replay's a very good game, and the bullpen problems were too real. It's like, no, I've covered this on a daily basis. I don't need to go through this again. We want something a little bit different, but on the other hand, it's like, nope. I wrote this story.
Yeah.
And so I think that's it. But again, we were talking about this before we started recording the show. I would be surprised, maybe for shorter projects, I'm sure the percentage is much higher, that if 10% of all long-term projects get finished.
That's a great point that I meant to bring up too. The longer the project, the harder it is to finish it.
Right.
Like the one-offs and the quick series are done. You see a lot of guys play, I'm going to play a 10 or 20 game season and you're done. But yeah, if you want to go for the whole chipotle there, like whether it's a one team or maybe every team, but the longer the project, that's a great point. The longer the project, I agree, the less of a chance you're going to finish it.
Just because real life could intervene. You never know what's going to come up. And again, I think when you start a project, you go great guns. You fall in love with it. You push through fast and furious.
A whole bunch of games in a night, and the next night.
Bunch of games
and then by the third day, it's like, I want to play something else. And then that project kind of sits there and.
Right. And then you hit the Oh, that series. And the first time you play two mediocre teams against each other, it's fine. You're still excited about the project. Get 6 weeks into a full season replay, this underperforming team against that underperforming team, and it's number 4 pitcher against number 5 pitcher. Okay. Again, yes, they're marathons and they're not a sprint. And yes, we've talked about there is no set completion date ever for a project. It's never a dead project until you're looking up from the other side of the ground. You can always go back and finish it. I've read over the years, I started this in 1987 from the 1985 season, left it for 20 years and came back to it. I mean, so nothing's officially given up the ghost until you delete it. But yes, I think people feel pressure. I know I have felt pressure over the years going through and reading on Delphi or the Strat Forum or whatever and going, oh my God, this person did this.
He's still, 2 years later, he's still doing this.
They're still doing it. And it's like, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
And again, it takes a lot of willpower. And if you're doing a long-term project like a full season, I was looking the other day, someone has done several mid-50s hockey replays in Stratomatic.
Okay.
Because it's only the 6 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only 250 games. That doesn't seem unreasonable to do until you're playing the Bruins and the Rangers in game 15 of the season, and combined they have 9 points.
Yeah,
and then it's like, okay, it's nice to see Johnny Busick and it's nice to see Andy Bathgate.
Yeah.
But
now there's some games that maybe the product doesn't get finished, or maybe it's just a slow burn. Like I'm playing the I think it's 81-82 Edmonton Oilers in ultra quick hockey. Mm-hmm. And I want to see what Gretzky does for points. And so I'm rolling the dice. I set up the game. I get the final score, and then I roll to see just how many points Gretzky gets. And that's all I'm doing in that project. And I'm 6 or 8 games in, and I was doing a pretty good clip, a couple games a night, and then it dropped off, and that's sitting in the folder now. But it's something that's always in the back of my mind. It's like, geez, I should pull that out and roll a couple more games. And I will. That's not a product that's dead, because I do have dead products that I'm like, yeah, I don't ever see myself going back to that. That's one that I don't consider dead. It's just kind of in a stasis right now until I can get back to it. My 78 Appa Red Sox, that's another one that I played, and I was playing a couple of games at night, and I was having a blast with that season there, and then something else come up, and I haven't got back to it, but it's still sitting behind me, and anytime I want to pick it up and play, I can. And I was doing that offline and just having fun, because I didn't have to worry about setting up cameras or anything. I could just play and enjoy it. So there's a couple of products right there that I can list off the top of my head that I wouldn't consider dead, but neither would I consider, anything I played in the last couple of months, that's for sure.
I got one that I've killed off, 85-86 Celtics, not because they overperformed, as one of our Patreons said, if you ever killed the project because they're too good. But I realized in my evolution of learning Strat basketball and playing it that I'd played a good half of what I'd done wrong. And to be fair, we all evolve as gamers, and we all figure things out. It took me probably a good year into playing Strat basketball before I realized that if you hit suggest, the computer will set the right defense for you. And it makes it a heck of it's a completely different game than what you're going with.
That is another great point. What if you're playing a project and you find out you're playing the game wrong? And I've done that. I've played.
Yeah, I think we've all done that.
I want to say it was one of the Downey games I was playing. And I'm playing it, and I found out I was playing it wrong. And I'm like, what do I do? I think I was just playing a playoffs. It's like, do I restart these playoffs from scratch? Or do I just say, the heck with it, I'm just going to go forward, and whatever I played wrong, I'm playing it wrong for both teams, you know what I mean? But I've had that happen in a couple of games where I'm like, oh, yeah, you're supposed to do this. And, oh, yeah, you're supposed to do that. And I'm not doing that right now. So I have had that come up, that I played stuff wrong, and then it's like, do I abandon this project? Do I soldier on, knowing that there's a big asterisk hanging over it because I played it wrong? That's another good one there, Ron. Playing it wrong. What do you do if you find out you're playing it wrong?
What happens when you play tired? Kind of going with playing it wrong.
Yeah.
And, you realize that, It's kind of like the coloring book. You have most of it right, and you go, oh, what was I doing? What was I doing? Or the kicker, we've all done this. The pitcher who can't get the last out of the inning. And so, okay, in the grand scheme of things, if someone's earned run average is a run or two higher, it doesn't matter. But then again, you get the aggravation. Get the last. You had a game where someone gave up 10 runs.
I just left them in. Yeah, I think it was the 78 Sox. I said, the heck with it. The game's over.
You're pitching this. Get down.
Yep. We're not going to end this. You are going to, I don't care if they score 100 runs. You're not wearing out my bullpen,
But playing tired. Tired, that we're like, oh my gosh, what the heck happened?
Yeah. Bernie brings up a good point, Ron, and it's something I want to talk about here for a second. He says, the best thing about products on the PC is you can sim ahead in the games of the failed products, and it only takes seconds instead of all the cards and dice setup.
And you did that with the Spiders project, and it worked well for you. You never felt obligated that you had to play all 154 of those games.
I would zoom ahead a week or two, play a game. Sometimes I play back-to-back. Sometimes I play a doubleheader. I like to play some of the teams that I started to become familiar with. There were some teams I had no connection to, but like the Noodles Han. I had to play Noodles Han games. I had to play the Cy Young games. I had to play anytime they played some guys that I knew I would play. But there were some teams that I just didn't know the bodies that well. So I would just sim those, and that was fun. The only problem with that, when you're playing on the computer, is if it starts to go bad. And I've done that so many times between the Strat and Action P. Any game that you can zip ahead. Okay.
Right.
2nd and 10, mostly the football games, because I just get too impatient with the football games when I'm losing. You zip ahead a quarter, and then 2 quarters, and the hell with it. I'm just going to finish the game. And then you start doing the next game, and you start losing again. It's like, oh, the hell with it. I'm just going to zip ahead. And then it's like, something, let me just finish the season. Let me just sim the season because I'm not having it. So the temptation there to keep hitting the fast forward button on the PC, for me, I don't have any way. I can't control that. I keep hitting that damn button when I get aggravated.
It's okay. So let's go back to Action PC Golf here, because it's a game that we've discussed. And wasn't it wonderful that Ricky Fowler's last run at the U.S. Open was a round of Action PC Golf? You said it to me. You sent me a message going, he's playing Action PC Golf.
Oh,
and that's exactly what he did for
he was a nightmare.
For fans of Action PC Golf. But yes, once you make the first mistake in that game, it just kind of starts to go into a slow boil.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about. Okay, I know I can do this. And once you kind of give up how you want to envision something, it's just easy to say, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. Mm. And again, I think there's also a lot of pressure. I talked about a little bit about this earlier. We generally see people, the regular people, Ogard, on the Yappa forums. I mean, he goes through and does entire football seasons, plays every single game. And so I think there's a lot of pressure when a newcomer or someone in the community goes, well, these people finish their projects. I've got to finish this. No, you don't.
Right.
No, you don't. There's no obligation there. I mean, if you start something, there's no requirement that it needs to be finished or done in a timely manner or picked up 5 years from now or whatever. You're playing these for your own enjoyment, whether you're sharing the results or not. I mean, sometimes there were some projects that I killed myself before at the YouTube channel because I wanted to show it, but I wanted to write something cute and clever for each game summary. And then you spend more time being cute and clever writing the game summary than it does to take you to do the game. And if it's too much for you, then no one's going to read it to begin with. And I think that's peer pressure. I think has more projects that kind of go along that aren't as fun as it would be if we were still on our own isolated islands and go, no, not because look. Do you lose sleep over the fact that you didn't go back and do the 92-93 Bruins? You shouldn't.
No, but that's still there if I want to go back, and I still
I always go back to it.
I will go back and do that. I will. That's another one there that it's on the table at some point, and I'll go back and I'll play a couple more games of that and have some fun with that.
If someone genuinely feels bad because they didn't do whatever it was they were supposed to do, go back and pull it back out.
Yep.
Unless you've thrown out the games.
Yeah. Some people do that. They just sell off all their games, and that's that.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't get rid of any of my games, because if I ever get the itch, it's like, man, I want to go back and play that. But
well, and I think that's a smart thing, because you never know. Or again, someone might have a homebrew rule for a game you might like 95% of.
Yeah.
And go through.
Yeah. One other thing that I want to bring up here before we round up, probably the last thing I'll bring up. So, do you think when we talk about when products don't get finished, and there's some people that play, like, they take one team and they just play the season out, and is that
right.
and I know that you're doing that with the Celtics and the Islanders right now, and some of your products, but you also do products where you kind of play a game of the week type of thing. Do you think if you're playing as a single team, that the chances of finishing it are better than if you were playing a game of the week and you're bouncing around?
No, because with the game of the week, what I do for the streaming stuff, you're picking the most interesting game to play.
Yep.
And so now you get to the point where, again, this is the 5th year I've done for baseball. You're in September. It's pennant time. This is when it's supposed to be exciting, because you don't know how it's going to end. And there's enough difference from real life that, for instance, in my 2001 replay, Barry Bonds is not going to hit 73 home runs. Not even going to come close. I think he's at 46. So unless he reaches for the cream and eats a box after box of vitamin B12 cereal, he's just not going to do it. And that becomes interesting. There comes a point where you get your second win with that. Now, the last football project I started, I didn't finish because A, I became aggravated with the game, and B, I just wasn't having any fun.
Yeah.
And I know that people like when I do football replays and stuff like that, but it has to be fun for the person doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to that. But no, I think for a game of the week, because you can pick who you're playing, as opposed to, okay, I shouldn't be struggling against Team A, and I know because it's an American League East replay, we're about to do 3 at home against them, and then the next weekend we're doing 3 on the road, that you have those games coming up. So, no, I think that game of the week, one of the reasons why I started the channel was so I would finish a project. Because if other people got emotionally involved with what I was doing, it gave me enough incentive to do it, as opposed to, okay, well, then there's this, and then there's that, and I have this season and that. So, yeah.
I think that obviously they're two completely different products. When you play one team, you're that one team. You're going on the ride with them. But I see how, like, mid to late in the season, if things start going sour, it's easier to abandon that, because you're like, man, I have no hope. So it's like, do I just want to just play out the season for just the sake of playing out the season?
I think it depends. If it's a season you're emotionally attached to, I think you do. I mean, look at all the people who became Braves fans all those years. They were terrible. I mean, they were on TV every night and people followed them. I think it would be harder in basketball and hockey, because at some point whether you've made the playoffs or you haven't. I'm talking, an 80s season for that. I know that's tougher now in basketball and hockey. And you're going through the motions for seeding. And at some point, you're going to be locked in to that 3 seed or whatever. And I think you're kind of excited for the playoffs, but you got to go through and play the last third of the season where you know where you are.
Yeah.
And you pretty much, with 20 games to go, know who you're playing. That I think, just trying to keep the motivation up to go, just from my own experience.
So I think when you play as one team, compared to bouncing around, I think you're more invested in it because you're playing that one team. But again, as it goes sour, then it's like, again, why am I playing out the string? Whereas if you play the game of the week style, I think you'd be more apt to finish it because you can just concentrate on the better teams.
Right.
But I don't feel it gets quite as deep. You don't have the emotional attachment because you're kind of just overseeing it from the top rather than being there in the locker room.
Well, in the last couple of weeks, and you focus in this particular one, there's 6 divisions, and we've eliminated pretty much 2, I think, are done and dusted. You get down the last week of the season, or the last 2 weeks of the season, and there's 1, maybe 2 races that really, really cause you to go deep. And so you're going to get involved with those teams in the playoffs. but when you've the first year, 82, I think the last 2 weeks I played pretty close to every Oriole game because they needed them, because that was the story. And so you do get into that storyline because you're going from, okay, a macro view down to a micro view. This is it. It's either A or B. Everything else is settled. How does this play out? Because just like the Choose Your Own Adventure books from when we were a kid, you're just, if it's good, you want to know how this turns out just as much as the people who are following you.
Yeah. So there's another thing to keep in mind of why projects don't get finished. But anyway, so we want to know from you, why do projects not get finished? I mean, have you had that? Do you got to force yourself? Do you not force yourself? Do you just abandon it? What it is? Why projects don't get finished? We want to know from you on that. And so with that being said, we're going to get to our 3 stars of the week. All right. It's been a while since we did 3 stars. Here we go. All righty. So for episode 189, our 3rd star is Steeler Fan.
Yay!
All right. Thank you so much, Steeler Fan, for being a supporter of the show. Our number 2 star here in episode 189 is David Yamada.
Yay!
David, thank you so much for supporting the show. And our number 1 star here, in no particular order, is Larry Mullins.
Yeah, he was here.
He was in the chat room earlier. So, Larry, hopefully if you're not here, you'll catch us later. But thank you for being our number 1 star of the week. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up episode 189. And hopefully now that I have the new computer set up and all the things working well, maybe I can record a new intro and we can finally have that going on the show. I've been kind of using this drum beat here just as a fill-in for many episodes.
I do like it. It is good.
Yeah, but if I could put something to that, we'll see. It's just going to take a lot of work to do all that because I haven't played in forever. But anyway, this has been episode 189 of the Digital to Dice podcast. DigitalToDice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. DigitalToDice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, Facebook.com/groups/DigitalToDice. And if you'd like to support us on Patreon, and our Patreon club members at $5 a month got to watch this whole thing start to finish, all the good, all the bad, all the stuff that's going to get cut out that the audio's not going to hear. They got to watch it live and see our frustrations when we have technical difficulties. But you can go over to patreon.com/digitaltodice and support the show that way and get some extra goodies in there as well. So anyway, so that is that. Yeah, so why projects don't get finished, let us know. And if you get a new computer, I'd like to know some of the things that you went through. Did you have some of the same issues that I had? Did it go smooth, or how did it go? Let us know. But anyway, I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And that's going to do it for 189.
Don't get off the wrong exit. There's only one. Bye-bye.